How's it going out there, YouTube? My name is Jesse, and I am back for another request video. This request has come from a person who's actually given me a lot of requests to take a look over, and a lot of them are very interesting. It comes from Bucky749. I think that he has a YouTube channel. I'll figure what that is and give that a proper shout out. He thought it would be interesting if I did, it would be a Golden Age Spotlight deep dive retrospective on the Black Hood. The Black Hood started off in the Golden Age and has appeared, I wouldn't say today, but around today in the most recent things. If you watch Riverdale, then he's had his most recent appearance, but in the comic books, I think his last debut was 2015. Now, there have been four main characters who the comic books have specifically identified as being the Black Hood, unless we want to include Impact Comics, and they got really weird with their stories of the Black Hood. It's definitely something interesting. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an introspective look, deep dive of the Black Hood. We're going to go over the four main characters. We're going to go over what Impact Comic did. And we're going to talk about his transformation over the years, where he started off as a hero, turned into a vigilante, and most recently, the murderer. I've watched a little bit of Riverdale, so I saw a little bit of what's going on there, so I might go into that a little bit too. So let's go ahead and get this dive of the Black Hood. We'll go over where he started from originally in the Golden Age, his impact, the telling of his character over the years, the people who have played him, and we'll just try and make sure that we mention everything that I can possibly come up with on the research. So we're going to go ahead and get this video started, and it starts in the Golden Age. The Black Hood first appeared in Top Notch Comics number 9 in 1940. It was produced by MLJ Comics, which would later become Archie Comics. The first Hood was Matthew Burland. Matthew Burland was a cop, and he was set up by the Skull, accused of grand larceny. He would want to prove his innocence, so he followed the Skull and tried to expose him. He would get found by the Skull's men, and he would be shot 8 times and left in the forest to die. A hermit would find him and nurse him back to health. Once he told the hermit of his stories, the hermit decided to help train him. He would become very proficient in hand-to-hand combat, and he would later expose the Skull and prove his innocence and go back to being a cop, as well as also being the Hood. Now, he would be the Hood up until his secret identity was exposed, and then he would become a private detective after that, and would continue that until MLJ started going in a new direction. While part of the comic series, he appeared on the pages of Top Notch Comics, Black Hood Comics, Jackpot Comics, and Pet Comics. The Black Hood was so popular at the time that he would not only appear on the pages of the MLJ Comics, but he would have a pulp magazine and his own radio show. The Black Hood is the only character from MLJ that would appear outside of the comic books. In the early 1970s, they would revive the Black Hood, but he would come up as a different name. Red Circle Comics would publish the new Black Hood as Thomas Kip Burland. He would find out that his uncle was the Black Hood, and he would assume the mantle. Thomas would find out that there were many people throughout history who have assumed the identity of the Black Hood, and he would be the next person in this tradition to be the vigilante. He is also not powered like his uncle, and his outfit was more biker leather than superhero tights. He also rode a custom motorcycle to get around to the other places. He would appear in Mighty Crusaders and Blue Ribbons comics, and he would also have a short run of his own where he would learn about the legacy of the Black Hood. In the last few appearances of Thomas Burland as the Black Hood, he would actually he would actually take the costume of the original Black Hood, and that's what he would look like before they finally went in a new direction. Now, I will mention this briefly. There was a run known as Impact Comics, which was actually put out by DC in 1991. The Impact Comics took a whole bunch of characters from the Red Circle comic books and produced an Impact universe, where they were produced by DC but not part of DC. The Black Hood would have his own run of comics, along with the Web, the Comet, the Fly, the Shield. Now, I never did actually collect any of the Black Hood comics because I didn't know they were out there, but from what I have been able to gather about those is that the Black Hood was not a single identity. It was an item that when people put it on would be the Black Hood. Just like all the way in the Joan of Arc would be a Black Hood, Western superheroes dating back as far as however they wanted to. Some of the Adventures of the Lone Ranger was the Black Hood. So you put on the hood and then your body became the vessel for the hood, which is really an interesting storyline that I'm going to be working on collecting, because I've already got the Web and the Comet and the Fly and a number of Shield comics, but that is what Impact went with the Black Hood. In 2009, DC would revive the Black Hood again, and everybody from the Archie superhero comics, the Red Circle comics, would be integrated into the DC universe. This incarnation of the Black Hood would be Matrio Burland. I'm probably mispronouncing the first name. His sister was murdered by a crime lord, drug dealer, and he went out into the attempts of stopping the drug dealer. He would eventually find him and kill him, and when confronted by the Web, he told him that he could not be a hero and a murderer, and he said that he would deal justice as he deemed justice be dealt out. He did not have many appearances, but this was where the idea of the Black Hood started taking a bit of a darker turn. And now we come to the last iteration of the Black Hood in the comic books. This is the first one to not have the last name of Burland, besides Impact, but that was just a different thing altogether. Officer Greg Hittinger would apparently kill Thomas Burland, the second Black Hood, by mistake. There was a gunfight going on. Greg took a shotgun blast to the face, fired a random bullet, and that would kill the first Black Hood. And feeling guilty, he would take on the role of the second Black Hood. Now, he was an active officer on the streets until he got demoted to desk duty because he was set up by a drug kingpin to make him look like he was part of the drug ring. Later, as the Black Hood, Greg would find the leader of the Connection and would end up killing him. and framing him to be the Black Hood. I don't know why he would felt the need to do that. But at the end of his first run, which was produced by Black Circle Comics, we could see that he was making another Black Hood, because he was going to resume his role as a cop and the Black Hood. But unlike all the other versions of the Black Hood, he was not above murdering the criminals, which, if you think about it, it is a way to keep them from committing the crimes again. But he was pretty brutal about this and didn't seem to have any remorse for that. I thought that this was worth mentioning. The CW television network has a show that's called Riverdale, which is based off the Archie comic books. The adaptation is definitely its own. In the second season, they introduced the Black Hood. Now, the Black Hood would kill people. He was a serial killer, and he killed people with his own, I guess, perverted sense of who he thought needed to be dealt justice. At first, it seemed kind of rational, and then he just seemed to completely go off the rails at first. It turned out that the Black Hood was Betty Cooper's father, Hal. Now, the whole thing, it didn't make sense until the end, but while they were coming to who the Black Hood was, I think they wrote themselves into a corner that they couldn't really get out of, because it being Hal didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me. But that was the direction that they wanted to go, and at the very end of season 2, he escaped, and then he was killed by Mrs. Blossom, who he was allying himself with. Well, I think that just about covers everything. That's all the information that I could find that I thought was relevant or worth mentioning. If there's anything that you thought that I should have mentioned that I didn't, you can go ahead and put that in the comment section. Tell me what you think about this video and make suggestions of your own if you have any. But I really enjoy making these videos and filling out requests. So until the next time, I'll be seeing you.